Welcome to our tutorial on academic citation. Today, we will examine the art of citing specific textual evidence to support our analyses of primary and secondary sources. First, let's define some key concepts. To cite means to quote or refer to an external source to support an argument or statement. It's like giving credit to the source of your information. Primary sources are first-hand accounts or original documents created during the time period being studied. In historical texts, primary sources can include diaries, letters, photographs, artifacts, and speeches from the era under investigation. For example, a letter written by a soldier during the Civil War would be considered a primary source, providing direct insight into the experiences and perspectives of individuals living during that time. Secondary sources, on the other hand, are interpretations or analyses of primary sources. They are created after the time period being studied and often provide commentary, analysis, or synthesis of primary source material. In historical texts, secondary sources can include textbooks, biographies, and scholarly articles that analyze events, people, or ideas based on primary source evidence. In scientific texts, primary sources are original research articles published in peer-reviewed journals. These articles report the methods, results, and conclusions of scientific experiments or studies. Scientific secondary sources can include review articles, textbooks, and scientific documentaries that summarize and interpret findings from multiple primary sources, providing context and analysis for broader understanding. Now that we've defined primary and secondary sources, let's see how they're used in citing specific textual evidence. Imagine you're reading a historical primary source about the American Revolution. You come across a diary entry from a person who witnessed the Boston Tea Party. To cite specific textual evidence, you would directly quote the passage. You need to add quotations around the text from the passage, and then a reference to where the information can be found. Sometimes this might be in parentheses after the quote, or as a footnote separate from your writing. Your teacher will tell you which format to use when citing evidence from a text. Suppose you're analyzing a secondary source chart based on a census report that shows population growth in a city over the past century. To cite specific textual evidence, you would refer to the numerical data presented in the chart, perhaps quoting specific years or percentages to support your analysis of population trends. Imagine you're studying the impact of recycling on reducing waste. You come across a scientific study that discusses the decrease in landfill waste due to increased recycling efforts. To cite specific textual evidence, you would reference the study's findings, perhaps quoting statistics or observations made by researchers, to support your analysis of the relationship between recycling initiatives and waste reduction. In conclusion, mastering the skill of citing specific textual evidence is crucial for analyzing primary and secondary sources effectively. By providing direct quotes and references, you can strengthen your arguments and demonstrate a deep understanding of the material. Remember, when citing textual evidence, always provide context and explain how the evidence supports your analysis. This skill is not only important in academic settings, but also in real-world situations where critical thinking and evidence-based reasoning are valued.